going to say that we don't care much about process. We do care intensely how he died, and we like it. They say he died with fear in his eyes. They say he died bleeding. We like that, but there's one more important thing they failed to mention. He died begging. And we think that this is critical. Why is this critical? Well, I'm going to basically look at two major points today. And under my second one, I'm going to clash directly with their stuff. First, I want to talk about the idea of dignity. I want to look at that in terms of authoritarian states and how they function by building up dignity of themselves and their regime, how they destroy the dignity of their people, and what impact this ends up having and how you resolve it. Secondly, I want to look at how Gaddafi died, why this is important, why this is much better than him being able to sit in a court. I want to look at the impact on his opponents. I want to look at the impact on his loyalists. I want to look at the impact on other people in Africa and around the world. I want to look at the impact on other leaders, and I want to look at the impact on everyone in the world and the entire international legal system. Let's talk about dignity for a moment, because I think dignity here is important. Because I think whenever we think of an authoritarian state, we think the thing they appeal to is strength. The justification for any sort of coup, whether military or otherwise, is chaos. It's the chaos that came before it, the anarchy. People want to present their leader as strong. This is why Mugabe's never sitting down in pictures of him that are released publicly. It's why Hitler is portrayed in armor and on a horse in Third Reich propaganda, and there's images of reality and strength. We think this is important because the memory of the regime, when there are loyalists, tends to be based not on, oh, they were great, they didn't kill that many people, but oh, wasn't it good when there was order? Any loyalists who exist in Iraq or Afghanistan don't say, oh, Saddam was a nice guy. They say, well, the trains ran on time and the justice system worked, and yeah, he may have killed too many people or the Taliban may have executed people, but God knows there wasn't random crime everywhere. We think that when you undermine that dignity, you directly challenge that and undermine it, as I'll explain later. Secondly, we think it works by breaking down the dignity of the individual. We think that one of those key things is the ability to justify and defend yourself in it. We think one of the things about their tribunals is that when you have justice in them, everyone screams at you. You get brought in, fake evidence, you don't get to make even a case. No one gets to see your defense, and you don't get your word out. We think that by breaking down that dignity, you have to build it out, because we think the damage to a tradition of a legal system and a view of it lasts far beyond when the dictator leaves. And we think simply putting him in a Western system where there's no death penalty, where he's allowed to speak for days on end, like Milosevic did, effectively making electioneering speeches against the successive government. What to us looks like justice, to them looks like treating him softly and giving him a platform. And we think that that's incredibly bad and undermines that approach and undermines the view of the West. Let's talk about how he died, because we think that it was important not only that he died, but that it was videotaped, because everyone is viewing this now. When you look at the way he did that, that will be the epitaph on his regime. By contrast, look at Milosevic. Milosevic was already fading by the time he was overthrown. He was humiliated, overthrown by his own people. That was his low point. The Hague was a second act. At The Hague, he got to berate witnesses, accuse other people of crimes against humanity, claim he was the defender of the serfed people. He was in his element, and he was making speeches directly back to his own people and loyalists. And we think that hurt every single victim who viewed that, everyone back, and then he dies before he even gets sentenced. And even if he gets sentenced and get a comfortable prison, we don't think that's justice. Why is this good for our opponents? Well, we think opponents need that sort of catharsis. They need to see him there, but they also need to see him delegitimize. The thing they will remember about Gaddafi now is how he died. When you type Gaddafi into YouTube, what comes up? Him dying humiliatingly. What comes up whenever anyone does this? We think this is vital and important to them, especially due to the delegitimizing effects of having a justice system where he can defend himself and where there is no death penalty or someone going to take it.
Okay, but what about the people who supported him, right? They don't think, oh, now the whole rhetoric...
Well, thank you very much. We think that there's one key thing about people who die when they're dead. We think that movements can survive a death when someone dies as a martyr. We think one of the key reasons Christianity functioned was because when Jesus was put on the cross, he didn't say, please, 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 I recant. He rejected repeated efforts by Pontius Pilate to get him to recant. We think that when people die as a martyr and reject and refuse to beg, that leaves a legacy that other people can hold on to and say that they were martyred. By contrast, when Gaddafi died, he was begging. He was offering whatever people wanted. He was offering them money. He was offering them other stuff to do things. We think that that destroyed it. Authoritarianism may rise in Libya again, but president died with Gaddafi. There is no great image of it. You can't bring it back. His kids can't stick to an image because every time you hear that name, it is permanently associated with shame and humiliation. And therefore, we see the value in that. All right, what about other Africans? Because we think the harms of his opponents don't just limit to him. Gaddafi was a global presence. On one hand, he was founding member of the AU. On the other hand, he sent mercenaries to back up authoritarian regimes around Africa and back horrible people through there. We think other Africans and our people basically need that. But secondly, we think that foreign leaders will see this as well. If they think they can just cut and run at the end, or that they're going to get to justify themselves, we think that that's not a good thing. We think by contrast, if they think they will end humiliatingly, the West won't rescue them when they fall. They will die begging in the streets. We think that's something that they may reconsider and think seriously about. Finally, I want to talk about this idea of international legal system. Because you know what? We have an international legal system being brought up. It's the idea that while soldiers can die in wars extrajudicially, generals are supposed to be taken alive. Leaders are. This is the entire Westphalian system, where political leaders aren't held responsible, but soldiers are executed and die for followers. We think this is bad. We want to blow up the international legal system in this regard because we think it's a terrible system where people on the ground are punished because they were forced into stuff or following orders. But the people at the top can say, oh, well, it was a good run. I'm going to retire to Saudi Arabia with my $5 billion. We think it's time that we add accountability and not legal protections because there's no way the individual Gaddafi torturers are going to be extradited to The Hague. They're going to be dealt with by the Libyans. But somehow we expect the leadership to be somehow specially treated and given this forum for their views. We think that that's disgraceful. We think that undermines legitimacy of any sort of legal system for the people on the ground who think it's biased towards the people at the top and undermines it. For all of these reasons, we think it was good that Gaddafi died bleeding, good that he died in fear, but best that he died begging for his life.